Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is in Italy for the G7 summit ahead of his first diplomatic trip to Russia as tensions with Moscow continue to escalate following the Syria strike. Secretary Tillerson took a hard line against Russia, slamming Vladimir Putin's government as, quote, incompetent for allowing Syria to hold on to chemical weapons. Tillerson's criticism comes after Russia on Friday condemned the U.S. strike, calling it an attack on its ally. And it appears that Assad's forces resumed their campaign of airstrikes against rebel forces over the weekend. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a series of strikes on Saturday killed at least 18 people, including 5 children, in the rebel-controlled Idlib province. The non-stop onslaught by the Syrian regime is part of a focus on a powerful new documentary by filmmaker Sebastian Junger.
Any reasonable person would flee the kind of fighting that we've seen in Syria. They'd happily risk their lives to be smuggled across the border. They'd collect by the millions in neighboring countries, even living in squalid refugee camps. Eventually, they'd make their way to the West to look for a better life for their children. People say, look, it's not our problem. Okay, it's not your problem. But that doesn't mean you won't be affected by it. You can say that you don't actually care about human suffering, but the truth is that all violence and misery eventually affect the entire world. In that sense, there is no escaping the fact that we are all part of the human race. There is no escaping the fact that borders become irrelevant once people start dying and societies begin to collapse.
The documentary Hell on Earth, The Fall of Syria and the Rise of ISIS premieres at the Tribeca Film Festival later this month and airs this spring on National Geographic. Its producer and co-director Sebastian Junger joins us now. This looks really good.
Thank you very much. We're really proud of it.
What were you hoping to accomplish when you set out to do this? There's so many conflicting issues pertaining to Syria, confusion about it, confusion about why Obama didn't act, confusion about where we go moving forward, and then some people completely disconnected from it. It seems you're trying to approach that sort of gap there. Yeah,
I mean, I think the proper role for journalists isn't to suggest policy, but to inform. Right. My first war was Bosnia, Kosovo, Sierra Leone, Liberia. In all of those wars, I and many of my colleagues, what we want to do is make it clear to the public what's happening on the ground, why this came to pass, and in explaining that, sometimes solutions emerge. Of course, in Bosnia, that war was ended by a 10-day NATO aerial bombardment that basically stopped the genocide and started the process of peace. So, I don't know, very few journalists would say, oh, we should do that. But when you explain the facts on the ground, things like that begin to emerge as a possible solution.
We did act in Bosnia. We did act during that time, Bill Clinton and their strikes. But what are the Syrian people saying about the United States? What are they saying about the West? Talk about, do they feel abandoned? Do they feel betrayed? Do they feel forgotten?
Well, the Syrians, I think, like people in every war that I've been in, are just amazed that this amount of suffering can happen in front of TV cameras in the world.
500,000 deaths.
Yeah, and the world doesn't do anything. I remember hearing the same thing in Sarajevo. I mean, Sarajevo was a besieged city. 20% of the city was killed or wounded by Serb military forces in the surrounding hills. They couldn't believe it. They're like, "What? Look, what's happening? The world isn't doing anything." That's what the Syrians feel.
So in this documentary, you have an unaired interview with General Mike Flynn that you did back in 2016.
Yeah.
And what can you tell us about that interview? Just because I think it's interesting to know how one of Trump's most influential advisors views the refugee crisis.
Yeah, I mean, back when we did the interview, he didn't know what was in store for him politically, and we didn't know, of course. So, and I think he really spoke his mind. He said, look, if you want to stop the refugee crisis, you have to bring enough peace to that country that people will stay, that they'll go home. In other words, he was making an argument for nation building, which of course is sort of political heresy on the right wing and also on the left wing to some degree. But he was saying it, and that's a sort of realist's perspective.
Got any heroes in this movie?
Oh my God, there's so many heroes. I mean, ordinary Syrians who are struggling to survive, who are helping.
Let's talk about one of them.
Well, there's an organization that's pretty well known called the White Helmets, and we were lucky enough to get in with them. You know, they're digging people out of rubble. They're a civilian organization. They're risking their lives. It's absolutely horrific. But they would not say they're heroes. They would say, look, we're Syrians. We're doing what needs to be done. There's a baker in Aleppo who was like, I'm not leaving. My people need bread. I'm going to keep making bread. I mean, heroism exists at that level. Yeah.
It's upset me that the White Helmets have been targeted by conspiracy theorists who have said that, you know, they're funded by, you know, this outside interest, et cetera, et cetera. What's your response to the conspiracies about the White Helmets not really being what they say they are?
I mean, look, it upsets me that 9/11 was targeted by conspiracy theorists, that Obama was targeted. This is more of the same. It's absurd, and if you watch the footage of what they're doing, wherever they're getting their money, and it's clearly not much, they're incredibly brave people who have at their mission at its heart is to save people's lives.
Compare the level of suffering in Syria with what you saw in Sarajevo, what you saw in Afghanistan, what you saw in Iraq.
Well, the death toll is much, much higher in Syria. They weren't using nerve gas in Bosnia. I wasn't on the ground in Syria in this. We got cameras into people in Syria. I mean, it's incredibly dangerous, as you know.
Right.
No, the level of suffering is astronomically higher than any of the wars that I've covered.
Wow.
The
All
documentary Hell on Earth, The Fall of Syria and the Rise of ISIS premieres at the Tribeca Film Festival later this month and airs this spring on National Geographic. Sebastian Junger, thank you so much.
Great to have you back.
Thank you,
Great,
guys.
great
Thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.